Hello, I'm your Hotich here with the Hotich Group powered by Keller Williams in Chesterfield, Missouri. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today, in the first week of month of February, we're going to talk about a subject that is very important while in the process of buying a house. I would like to also thank to all of those viewers who watched Hotich Group Facebook video last week. We talked about land surveying and what is and why is that process also important part of your home purchasing. However, today with me I have Cherie Summa. Cherie Summa?
Yes.
And Cherie is with the St. Louis Radon Test and Mitigation. So what is radon is something that not many of us knew or know about that term. Good friend of mine last night said, well, I bought a house and I never had the radon test done on before I signed the final documents. So, Cherie, thank you very much for participating today, and let's inform our viewers. What is a radon?
Sure. So radon is a colorless, odorless gas. You can't see it, taste it, or smell it, but it can be present at dangerous levels in your home. It is a carcinogen. It's the leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers, and it's naturally occurring. It comes
Hold on. So everybody thinks that, don't smoke, you're gonna get a lung cancer. Now, radon test, the radon gas actually can make us get a lung cancer?
Yes. There's a lot of stigma around lung cancer, but there really shouldn't be. Having lungs is the only thing that you need to get lung cancer. It's estimated that 21,000 people a year die of radon-induced lung cancer. So if you put that with other cancers, it's about the seventh leading cause type of cancer. So it is a real health concern. It's a real health threat. More non-smoking women will die of lung cancer than they will of breast cancer.
So, now the question is, why is not a radon test mandatory requirement during the home purchase?
That's a good question, and I believe that it should be in the state of Missouri. It's not. We've done a lot to try to get legislation passed, but so far there is none in Missouri. There is in quite a few other states.
Okay. Now we skipped first part, which is fine. We went straight to the fact what the radon is, but tell us about your company.
Sure. So we're St. Louis Radon Test and Mitigation. We have been in business for 11 years. We've installed more radon mitigation systems and done more radon testing than any other company in Missouri. So over 10,000 radon mitigation systems and 15,000 tests. There's really not too many situations that we've run into. We pretty much can solve anything at this point. I am a professional engineer by trade, and we have over 20 years of experience in construction.
So how can we contact you if this is a small people think that the radon test should be done only when you're buying a house. However, people should test their homes all the time, maybe once a year. But how could we get hold of you?
Sure. So you can find us at stlradon.com. We can be reached at 636-200-2875. You can call us to schedule a test. You can also go online to our website and schedule a test online.
Okay, and I don't know if this is okay or not, but also one of the reasons people don't want to do a radon test is it costs.
It does cost, but it is so inexpensive for something that can be life-saving.
Okay, so does the price depend on the size of the house, or is it, how much is the radon test?
A typical radon test is $125. That's for one test. unless your basement is larger than 2,000 square feet, so the footprint of your house is larger than 2,000 square feet, you need 2 tests for every 2,000 square feet. But 1 test takes care of it for most homes. There's also other situations to be aware of when you're testing for radon. So if you have a crawl space, you'll want to test above the crawl space. A lot of houses have basements and crawl spaces. If you have a room addition, that's on a separate foundation, so you'll also want to test if you have a room addition. So, typically that's a bedroom or something. So you'll want to be testing in a few locations.
And the test, how long does it take to test?
48 hours.
48 hours.
Yes.
So you will leave that device in the house and then come later. Sometimes I also heard that sellers are aware of the presence of radon gas in their house, and once you leave the device, they leave the windows open so that gas does not stay.
Yes, so that can happen, and sometimes that backfires.
How?
Sometimes it can increase the level of radon, depending how the HVAC system is acting. So it's not always going to lower the radon levels, although it can. A lot of times we can tell if somebody has done that.
Can the purchaser require retest based on if something was off? Can you say something is not in sync, something is not working properly?
Yeah, so the test that we use for a real estate transaction, we use a continuous monitor, and it will map out the levels on a graph. It reads every hour. So let's say it's reading high, it's reading 10, 8, 9, and then all of a sudden
Goes down to 1.
It goes down to 1 or to nothing for a certain period of time. Our reports also can detect movement. So if somebody took that device and maybe moved it.
Right. So you said 10 to 9 goes down to 1. So what's the normal range for the radon gas in a house?
Well, radon does fluctuate, and that's why we test over a 48-hour period, and we average the number. Radon is always fluctuating because it's naturally occurring. It comes from the breakdown of uranium, and so that's always, radon has a half-life of 3.8 days, so it's always going to fluctuate some.
Okay, you said uranium, so if I have a high value of radon tests under my house, does it mean that I could start digging and maybe I could find a uranium in the middle of my house and become
Might not be good for your foundation.
Right, I know. Now, I bought a house and there was a mitigation system already installed, and the gauge shows it's in a normal level. What do you recommend?
So that gauge that you're talking about is the manometer on the pipe, and that's a common misconception. So that gauge is not a reading of radon. That's only telling you if your radon fan is working.
Okay.
So you should test. You should test every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
And that's a good point. If somebody is buying a house, and it has a mitigation system, you should still test. You also don't know whoever tested previously if they were testing it under the right conditions, like you said.
Now, I remember while attending a real estate class, and my great instructor, Mr. Busboom, said there are certain areas in St. Louis that are concentrated with higher level of radon gas than the others. Do we know in a certain which? I don't think I don't know if that was correct or not. That he mentioned around Bobler Park in the Wildwood area, it's more concentrated with the radon gas than the other areas.
I mean, yes and no.
Okay.
There are areas we know certain subdivisions. Typically, when we get a call, the likelihood that we're going to get a high reading, is pretty high. However, your neighbor could have a high reading and you might have a low reading, or vice versa.
So it could be a house next to it could be way off than below or more than the house.
Well, so one of these subdivisions that I'm talking about, it's in West County. a lot of the neighbors had very high levels of radon, and around 100 when I'm talking very high. And 4.0 is the EPA action level. And we tested this one house. It was 1.
Wow.
Because and a lot, with new construction, there's cut and there's fill. Mm-hmm. So you always try to balance a site when you're developing it, but sometimes you can't, and you might get dirt from 2 miles down the road or 3 miles down the road, and that's what your house is built on, but your next door neighbor's house isn't.
But would you recommend also to that a homeowner, even though his or her house or their house tested, in a normal level, to retest it every year, just because
every 2 years?
Every
2 years. Yeah.
Every 2 years.
So testing, just every home needs to be tested. It doesn't matter if it's new, old. One of the common misconceptions is that if you don't have a basement, if it's slab on grade, that you don't need to test, but you absolutely do, because you're going to be living on you're going to be living what's closest to the ground. We always test in the basement because it's the lowest livable area, but if you're in the slab on grade, that is the lowest livable area, and that will have the highest concentrations.
Now, we found out through your testing that my house or house of our potential or future buyers, or somebody who decided to do the testing, is packed with a higher value of radon gas. So what's the next step?
The next step is installing mitigation system, which we install those as well.
So you provide also installment of the mitigation system as well?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And how much is that?
It's between $785 and $1,000 typically. We'll take care of it.
Right.
And that includes a warranty. It includes follow-up testing.
And warranties for how long?
5 years.
5 years.
And it's transferable with the house.
Now, we spent, interestingly enough, we buy homes, spend a lot of money, but we spend 6 to 10 hours in that house of our day, a busy day, including night, but we spend most of our time working in a building such as this. Do the commercial building owners provide also radon? Do they do radon tests?
Some do, not all do. Okay. But we do quite a bit of testing in commercial buildings. We test daycares quite a bit.
I wanted to ask, daycares and schools.
Schools, although in Missouri, honestly, almost all the schools have been tested, and not a lot of them have started installing mitigation systems.
So you want to say that a lot of schools in St. Louis, in the state of Missouri, have elevated radon gas level?
Yeah, the only way to really know, and I highly suggest this to parents, is to ask your school's superintendent.
Okay.
Because most in this area have been tested, and they won't release the results to somebody like me. You have to be a parent in the school and ask the superintendent and demand that they mitigate the school if it's been high. The state of Missouri, the Department of Health and Senior Services, is the one that provided those tests with grant money. So it's our money that has paid for that testing, and you should demand to see the results and to require them to mitigate if necessary.
I read an interesting fact in the material that you sent me the other day, that every house is required to have a smoke detector or carbon monoxide detector, but the numbers are way off comparing how many homes are being affected with the radon gas comparing to carbon monoxide or smoke.
Yeah, it's really kind of shocking when you compare it. So about 450 people in the United States die of carbon monoxide poisoning a year. 450. 21,000 people die of radon-induced lung cancer a year, and it's preventable. It's preventable.
I know, but it's $130. Being sarcastic.
Yeah,
so
right. It's preventable, but
just a cool doctor. If you have or don't have an insurance, it could cost you maybe $300.
But there's just not enough awareness around radon yet. which is why there are, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, and people don't regularly test for radon. If radon is a long-term exposure, so you get.
So you're living in a time bomb.
Yeah, same with cigarette smoking. You're not going to die from smoking 2 cigarettes. It's going to be smoking over a period of time, and that's the same with radon-induced lung cancer. But a fire or carbon monoxide poisoning, it happens instantly, and it's on the news, and everybody sees it.
Should I have a radon test if I'm buying a condo?
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter
any kind of structure can have a radon problem.
So, but how do you install then mitigation system in a condo if I'm on a second floor? Let's say, condo units in West County are different than those condo units in the city of St. Louis. So how do you install that mitigation?
Well, it really just kind of depends on the condo building and how it's laid out.
Right.
And sometimes we can go if.
Will the association allow to install?
Well, sometimes it's tricky working with associations, but ultimately they almost have to allow it because it's a health concern.
It's a health concern. So, there's another fact that you said 1 in 5 homes in St. Louis is estimated to have high levels of radon, which means those people are all at risk of developing lung cancer. I live in a rent, and the building is pretty old. And after reading this yesterday, maybe that's the reason why Fitbit said that I slept for 5 hours last night. So you scared me. Now it's really, what would be your recommendation to our viewers today? Go get tested.
Get tested.
Right, get tested. Do you have anything to cover or to say that we didn't say today, or for our viewers? And I don't know if we covered everything. This is more of what we'll be doing here through a Hotich Group powered by Keller Williams. We are providing a service to our viewers, not only to those who are Keller Williams Hotich Group clients, but to anybody out there to think about items that are very important. It's not only important to buy a house for, I got a good deal, but did you do something besides a good deal, and did you take a good action in order to prevent potential health hazards, right?
Right.
So is there anything that you would like to add for the end?
No, just if there's just one way to sum this up is just test for radon. It's preventable. We can reduce the levels. It's nothing to be scared of. We can take care of it. There's never a reason to walk away from a house with higher levels of radon. And a mitigation system does more than just reduce radon levels. So there's other advantages of it. It can reduce the amount of humidity in your basement. It can reduce odors in your basement. And there's other soil gases as well that it pulls out of your house.
But some of those, I'm sorry, even though I said it at the end, but some of those mitigation systems are installed in the garage instead of in the basement.
Yes, but it originates in the basement. It just goes through the garage.
Well, Cherie Summa summed it up, everything, what we wanted to say and talk about today. Once again, your contact number is?
636-200-2875.
Or website is?
stlradon.com.
Thank you very much. Until next time, and thank you very much, Delmar Mortgage Group, for sponsoring this video shoot.